Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you guys are having a great start to your Monday morning and getting up and feeling great this morning and a great start to your work week. We're going to talk about the weather specifically for today. A little bit of severe weather possible across portions of the country. A little bit of severe weather ongoing right now this morning across portions of South Dakota and the north central U.S. in general. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and talk about the entire lower 48 in general, like we always do in these morning videos. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. It goes a long way in the slower times, like kind of like how we are in right now. So I appreciate the continued viewership and people continue to watch my content. It goes a long way and it definitely means a lot. You know, around here in South Carolina this morning we had an earthquake. Woke a lot of people up. You know, out of all the many, if you live here in the Southeast or in South Carolina, which I know I have a lot of people who watch from the state of South Carolina, we've had a lot of earthquakes over the last several months. The funny thing is, guys, I have yet to feel one of them. I have not yet to feel one earthquake here in South Carolina and in my entire life. All my friends, all my family members have felt one, but I have yet to feel one. So, you know, have not been able to chalk that off the bucket list yet. But maybe one of these days. Obviously, we don't want a huge earthquake, but it'd be cool to experience maybe a little light one that doesn't do absolutely any damage at all. But anyways, if you guys got anything that I can pray about, please put in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. More importantly, it gives a whole lot of other people an opportunity to pray over it also. And I pray over those every single morning. And I'm sure a lot of other people pray over these prayer requests throughout their day. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. Like I said, hope you guys are feeling great. Really, across the entire lower 48 in general, it's relatively quiet. You don't see it here, but there's a little bit of spin that's ongoing right here off the coast of the eastern U.S. We talked about that a little bit last night. This will continue to try to organize, and we'll see if it can somehow get some brief tropical characteristics with it sometime throughout the next few days. And we'll see if this will do anything. We'll continue to talk about that. But really, we'll focus in on what's going to happen today. And there is a lot of convection ongoing in eastern South Dakota, moving into Minnesota. And we'll watch this area today in Iowa. There's going to be a lot of juice in the atmosphere, rising all the way up the Mississippi Valley. Dew points are going to be well into the 60s and 70s, very moist atmosphere. And a high-level atmosphere as far as storm juice, storm energy here for storms to fire. But obviously, the further south you go from the actual low pressure ejecting across this upper trough, the lack of forcing you get. You need this forcing to initiate thunderstorms. So you're going to have lacking of that. That's why you're not going to have any thunderstorms way down here in Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, even though you have CAPE levels reaching well above 3,500 joules per kilogram at the surface. But we'll take a look at what's going on here. You have a risk of severe thunderstorms here in areas of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, areas of Dakotas. You have a slight risk for this area right here. This is more so for the morning hours here in the next several hours. And then you have a slight risk right here for Iowa. A slight risk kind of getting into areas of southwest Wisconsin, areas of far, far, far southeast Minnesota. And really, this is the area you watch this afternoon and this evening. Really, really, probably later this evening, as anything that can get developed around in this region can be significant as far as severe weather. So there is a tornado risk in this area where you will have overlapping dynamics, lacking in some areas of dynamics, but you are still going to have ingredients there for severe weather in this 5% region where you have a 5% risk to see a tornado in 25 miles in any given location. Wind damage is possible in both of these sections where there's a slight risk, and hail damage, not hail damage, but hail risk, chances to see hail, 15% risk, 25 miles in any given location in these yellow areas. Forgive me for my sloppiness, guys. I'm starting to get back in the routine of things. So if I fumble my words a little bit, I do apologize. I'll get back with it here in the next couple days. But anyways, you got that tornado risk. But the threat here is very conditional, meaning it's going to be very isolated in nature. You know, down here, especially when you get in areas further south into Iowa, near Des Moines, you may not see any thunderstorms today, but if anything does fire up, it could be significant. It could be strong to severe for sure. So like we always do when they're calling for severe weather, we'll focus on that in the beginning part of this video, and then we'll break down the rest of the country here. But what we'll watch today, we have a lot of convection ongoing. In fact, you look at what's going on right now off a radar scope, you have a line here in northeast getting into northeast South Dakota where you have a lot of rain, and then you got some all-out storms. Cape levels already are pretty high in this region, so you already got the storm juice this morning before the sun even comes up. You have the ingredients there for some strong to severe storms. In fact, this was severe warned about an hour ago, and this is starting to get close to Watertown, South Dakota. So some nasty weather could continue to move into areas of western Minnesota here in the coming morning hours. You're already dealing with a little bit of rain here in areas of western Minnesota, far southeast North Dakota, and then northeast areas of South Dakota. So the ingredients down here will continue to get ripe for severe weather, especially right over here. Not really so much over here, but more so over here. So we'll continue to watch that. If you look at the latest HRRR model, we'll continue getting this in motion. This main first piece of energy from this morning will continue to work into central and northern Minnesota. So, as we're getting into 10, 11, 12, 10, 11 a.m., getting into noon, lunchtime, getting into the early afternoon hours, we'll be dealing with some rain ongoing as this low pressure continues to pivot and eject and get closer to Canada. We'll have some backside rain here on the northwest side and western side of this low pressure, but it's not quite cold enough for this to be a blizzard this time. We're starting to get into May. So, even for you folks geographically up in the Dakotas, it's starting to get a little bit too late in the year to see any kind of blizzard. But, crazier things have happened up in this region. Some crazy weather occurs up here. But anyways, we'll keep this rolling here. This continues to go. It's a pretty strong low pressure that kind of ejects off this main upper trough. But as we're getting into the afternoon hours, we're starting to get into 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We watch for more storms to fire up here in northern Minnesota. And then we'll start to watch down here. Can any storms get fired up here in Iowa and Wisconsin? If they do, the surface moisture will be supportive for severe weather. You could have damaging winds. You could have a brief tornado. So watch any kind of discrete, especially if they get discrete, isolated storms or supercells that can get going in this region. They could produce a quick tornado. But, throughout the late evening hours, you really got to watch this. But the lack of forcing is going to make it very hard for anything later this evening, maybe even after the sun goes down, for anything to get going. But I really think it will. It's just how severe and how significant can it get. There will be a brief time period where this will be able to get going. But, you're just not going to have a long period for this to get going. But you will be dealing with a pretty moist atmosphere up here. We're looking at dew points here. And look at these dew points rising well into the 60s, getting close to 70. So it'll be very moist all the way into central Minnesota today as this moist air rises ahead of this low pressure ejecting across the north central U.S. So you'll have a lot of moisture to deal with wrapping all the way up into Minnesota. So the dew points are there. And in response, you have some high-level Cape levels, which that high-level storm energy, this fuel for these storms to really build off of. And we'll show that here all the way down to Texas. You're thinking, well, why isn't this a severe weather outbreak if you all have these high levels of Cape right here? Well, it's because you don't have any kind of storm system ejecting across this trough down here. It's ejecting way up here. Therefore, you have lack of forcing, not necessarily a cap, just lack of forcing in general. So normally when you have high levels of high dew points in the 70s, the Cape is pretty high. Cape, when I say Cape, think of storm energy, storm fuel. The Cape is usually pretty high, but that doesn't necessarily mean storms are going to fire up. You got to have some kind of piece of energy aloft to really fire up and to create forcing, to create the initiation of these storms. And you're not going to have that down here, even though you're going to have some monster surface level Cape levels here. Reaching almost 5,000 joules per kilogram in certain areas. But really, you look up here where the low pressure is flying through, and you have overlapping of some dynamics. You have some of them kinematics, and you have forcing up here to fire up these storms up in this region. So you watch out for that. Really, across the eastern U.S., we'll step away from the severe weather side. Just be weather aware up in this portion of the country today, for sure. Really, it's quiet across the eastern U.S. You take a look at this spin going on here. You see all the moisture in the Atlantic Ocean. We'll see if this will wrap maybe some showers into the Outer Banks a little bit later this evening. I doubt it, but altogether, the eastern U.S. is beautiful weather. It really is. It's going to be very spring-like temperatures, especially across areas of the extreme eastern U.S., and I'll show you that now. Look at these temperatures rising almost, probably over 100 in areas of Oklahoma, Texas, I wouldn't be surprised to see a 100-degree reading in Kansas today. You have a big time surface heating, a dry line setting up, and intense surface heating occurring. But you notice for temperatures across the eastern U.S., even down to Florida, this cutoff low is bringing its own cool air. So you guys stay cool along the eastern U.S. today. You really do. I mean, it's going to be more like spring today. But unfortunately, this is bringing those cool winds off the northern Atlantic Ocean here in areas of the eastern southern New England areas like Boston, Cape Cod. So you guys are going to be pretty chilly today, locked into some winter type temperatures or early spring kind of type temperatures, only in the 40s. But once you get off the coast, a beautiful day. Heating is nice, 60s, 70s, all the way up into New York, the interior areas of the Northeast, the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, 60s and 70s for highs. But once you get into Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, highs in the 80s and 90s, and not just dry heat. This is going to be some nasty, humid kind of conditions. You're probably going to have a heat index, is what I'm trying to say. So it's going to feel hotter than what it is. And look at these dew points. Let's try to get this going here. Look at these dew points rising well into the 60s and 70s up the Mississippi Valley all the way into Minnesota. So it's going to be very uncomfortable in Missouri, Arkansas, western Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, central and eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, far eastern areas of Kansas. Uncomfortable weather today. It's going to be warm and it's going to be very humid for sure. Talking about the western U.S., you're going to be cooler than average today in response to this upper trough that swung into this part of the western U.S., really the entire western U.S. And you're going to have snow levels that are going to be pretty low. And, snow showers possible throughout all the Pacific Northwest in general, and just some rain showers in lower elevations. But you watch a little bit later, this gets increased in coverage. So you folks in Oregon and Washington State, Idaho, western areas of Montana, Wyoming, especially, near Yellowstone National Park, you guys could see some rain and snow showers throughout the day, depending on elevation. Everything is microclimate out there because it's geographically, everything is, elevation dependent is what I'm trying to say. I'm struggling with my words this morning. But very hot in the south central U.S. But once you get into the western U.S., I mean, even the desert southwest, you guys only in the 70s and 80s today, and just a chilly day across California, Oregon, Washington State, and everybody in general is going to be below average. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Sorry for the sloppiness. I will get better with it here in the coming days. Just taking a 2 to 3 day break definitely has got me off track with how I speak. I'm naturally not a good speaker. I'm sure some of you guys have noticed, and I was worse. There I go. I was a lot worse when I first started doing these videos. So I've grown with you guys, and I appreciate the patience for sure. So God bless all y'all. You have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you guys this evening.